and everyone else, welcome. We appreciate everybody attending what's now our first virtual UHA meeting ever. Forget about 2020. So bear with us. We're doing everything we can to make sure this goes as smoothly and efficiently as possible, but we all know how technology is. So if something comes up, you can get our attention through the chat, and we'll do our best to respond. We're also live streaming via YouTube, the UHA II channel on YouTube. So we welcome everybody to subscribe to that and take a look at the content there. Before I officially start, I'm going to ask, as we always do, for permission from our elders. So if one of the elders who's on the screen can just kind of nod or wave their hand and give us a thumbs up, that would be great. All right, Brother Clint, thank you, sir. That's my neighbor down the street. Appreciate that. Man, I thought a lot had happened in January when we convened on January 30th, right after Kobe Bryant and all of that. But since then, we've gone through a global pandemic and then a resurgence of, I guess you could call the original virus, although it's not really a resurgence. We all know that we have to deal with racism and white supremacy as a daily part of our society. But a lot of folks maybe forgot about that or didn't know it or didn't understand how much it impacted them. But now all of a sudden, we got two major global crises going on. So I just want to take a moment to give honor to those that have passed on. I know that we've lost some people in our community and in surrounding communities and throughout our city, county, state, country, world, etc. We want to remember those people that have battled illness and are still battling. You know, we want to give them some upliftment and encouragement to keep on trucking and keep hanging in there. And of course, we want to take a moment to remember those whose names have been ringing out recently. Some of you all may have come outside the other week when we had a moment of silence for George Perry Floyd Jr., Big Floyd. But we also have Robert Fuller, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and many others, I'm sure, whose names most of us have been hearing a lot recently. So hopefully that list of names will stop. We want to remember them and honor them and rededicate ourselves to make sure we're doing everything we can to improve our community and our society so we don't have those issues causing problems. So let's take a moment and ponder that, and then we'll start in earnest. All right, thank you. So we've got a lot, as usual, we've got a packed agenda. Again, for those who are just joining, the agenda is in the chat. So we're not gonna share our screen and disrupt all you beautiful faces that I'm looking at. But if you need to see the agenda, it's posted in the chat. We're gonna have updates from our board on various things that have been going on that we've been doing on your behalf and on behalf of the organization and the community. Then we'll hear from Captain Chris Johnson of the Marina Sheriff Station and talk a little bit about that issue with the budget and all the stuff that we've done. And by the way, thank everybody who supported our petition. I looked a short time ago and we have almost 5,900 signatures. So between us and Ladera and surrounding communities and the folks in Altadena, I think we really showed up on that issue and it made a difference. So it's another example of how organized pressure has an impact. So thank you. Then we'll hear from Jason Lombard of Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza around 3 o'clock. And then we'll open it up for any new business announcement or discussion and close out with our neighbor who, two of our neighbors who are a lot more musically inclined than I am. So that's the plan. Thanks, babe. My wife is telling me that our YouTube stream looks good, so that's good. Uh, Let me ask, how many of you, just by a show of hands, either in front of the screen or you can raise your hand through the chat, how many of you took the time to watch the interviews that we did with Senator Holly Mitchell and Councilmember Herb Wesson? Okay, few people, good. For those who may not have seen those yet, they are posted on our website, UHA1979.org. We met with both of them individually last month and had about an hour conversation with each. It was, I thought, a pretty good conversation. In both instances, we were able to drill down and ask some questions and get some insight. I'm going to ask our fellow board member, Dr. Helen Sellers, to kind of summarize and share her perspectives on that. And I'll yield the floor to her. Helen, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, afternoon, board members and neighbors. We basically had interviews with Holly and Herb, and I'm going to start off by talking about a question that we had for Holly alone, and then we will go into the other questions, just a summarization, not anything in depth. We were wondering why she was running for the council, the supervisor seat, when she had a couple of years left, I think, on her candidacy for Secretary of State. Well, the district, the position she's in now had 2 more years. And she had we thought she was a candidacy for Secretary of State. However, she was not a candidate. She simply said that she was exploring her options, and it was something that was normally done when a politician's seat is going to change within the last year of their reign. So she said it was an exploratory thing, and that she had to do that in order to raise money, but that she is fully committed to her candidacy for the 2nd district supervisor seat. So she wants us to be sure and realize that she is very serious, and that was just something that she had to do in order to raise funds. That was the first thing. And then the next question that we wanted to get a answer to was donations. And Holly explained that she did not take donations from tobacco companies or oil companies, which was significant to us because we have issues with oil companies. And we will get into that later in reference to the oil wells. And Hert's answer to that is that yes, he took contributions from oil companies, and that but it did not weigh on any decision that he would make for any type of legislature that might have been put across the board. In other words, he didn't feel that he had to vote for anything that they suggested because he votes his conscience, and that their donations did not sway him one way or the other. Each item brought before him is voted on according to the merits only. That was his response to that question. We talked about the Slauson Corridor from 2011. And one thing that Holly wanted us to know is that beginning in February, we were billions of dollars in the black, okay? And now we're $50 million in deficit. So that money has to come from somewhere. And I think she was letting us know that a lot of the developments that we thought were going to occur with the county's input may be just a little less now because the money is not there. She really thinks that we have to deal in a balance of interest, and the best way to address that is for us to make sure that we are educated in things. And now she's referring to the fact that we have a lot of big industry that is coming in with developments, and the units that they're building do not reflect the income levels of people who live in the community. We know that they are basically high end, and that our residents, of the people that she would represent in the second district, cannot afford those units. And the reasons for this, she explained, is that we need to now start educating our people on the pride of ownership, and that education is the key. And basically what has been happening is that we've been outbidded on properties that we have put on the market in our neighborhoods. And redlining of loans, of course, that's always been an issue. And she wanted us to know that she's always interested in public trust, and that she's willing to help as far as dealing with land trust deals. There evidently is a move to think in terms of land trust, where the county would have a trust and they would put certain properties in that trust, and then we will have the first right of refusal, the community. Let's see, another important thing, I think.
And Helen, I know, I mean, we actually covered a lot of ground in talking to both of them. We talked, just to share with the members, we talked a little bit after our conversation with each of them about whether UHA was going to endorse. You want to share a little detail with them about that?
Yes, we did speak in terms of whether we wanted to take a position or not. If you remember, we, back in the early part of the election, we took a position with Jan Perry. We supported her. We voted, and the membership voted to support Jan Perry. So Jan is no longer in the race. So now we're at the point where we have these two candidates, which would be Holly and Herb. And so we discussed if we were going to support either of these candidates. And at the end of the conversation, we had really thought it would be better if we did not support a candidate at this time, and then we would leave it up to you guys, the members, to decide if we want to support a candidate later in the election process. Perhaps if this is in November, maybe if we want to support somebody late October or near the first part of November, that would be a possibility, or we could choose not to support a candidate at all. So that would be left up to you guys to decide, just as you made a decision with Jan Perry.
And let me point out too that I see our neighbor Jan Perry is actually on the call on the Zoom link. So welcome, Jan. We appreciate everything that you've done throughout your career, and I don't know if you want to say anything since you're here, but we always appreciate having folks like you in the mix and supporting and doing everything that you do. So, and again, Helen, let me say and kind of put an exclamation point behind what you're saying, and encourage everybody who may not have watched those two interviews to take time to watch it. We do expect that we'll participate with our neighbors from Ladera and possibly others to host another candidates forum as the election date approaches. As you all know, the election is November 3rd. But yep, there's more to come. In fact, I remember Herb said that the conversation he had with us was kind of the first time he had talked about anything related to the campaign, at least publicly, since the primary. So
yes,
still early.
Yes. And so we also had questions in reference to the mall, behind the mall, across from the mall, all those road developments. Now we got some clear understandings of what council person represent those particular parcels. For instance, the Baldwin Hills Malls, which is considered the south, is in District 8. Across from there, where the Macy's and the Strip Center is 10, which is under Herb. The hospital is District 10. which is under Herb. I think I got that right, John?
That sounds close enough.
That's close.
Close
Okay,
enough.
so you
Close
see
enough for
how
government
divided
work.
it is.
Close enough for government work.
Okay, close enough for government work. So you can see how it is divided up, and so which makes communication and negotiation kind of difficult. But we were concerned about one of the units that was still there, which was the Flying Fox, and he discussed the fact that we know that that is historically been there for many years, and somehow we were trying to see if that particular parcel could be remain there as it because it's Black owned, and of course it went into the discussion of how many different owners and so forth. However, the final word on that was just to redevelop that to look like everything else and still keep Flying Fox, maybe a monument of some sort, or make sure that it's there in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and let me
commercial side, the Baldwin Hills side, is where it's going to be a big project because it's just been sold, and the developers want to put a commercial project there that is going to be for businesses.
And that was, of course, that was before the news broke earlier this week that deal is now torpedoed. So, you know.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to put commercial businesses there because I think there was expecting an influx of members to be employees of companies there. So, and they wanted them to live in the area. So that this whole thing is really moving in the direction of still building projects that our members and our communities cannot afford to purchase.
And Helen, let me take it from you there, but thank you for that.
Right.
We appreciate that summary. And again, for those who may not have taken the time, please take a minute. They're posted on our website and they're posted on the YouTube channel, but listen to both of those interviews.
Oh, John.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's
make
okay.
Sure we say something in reference to us maintaining our identity of Black awareness in Lombard Park by the naming of that district area somewhere in there, either African Town or African American Culture District.
Right.
So that's going to take some community involvement on that. And Herb is willing to talk to us in reference to that. He did say that if you listen to the video. So we need some members to kind of contact us and see if we can get together and make sure we push that forward, because he is now District 10. So he can do something now because that's the seat he serves on right now. Okay.
Thanks, Helen.
Thanks, John. Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's okay. Thanks for that detailed summary. And let me just kind of quickly talk about land use, and then I'm going to ask Daryl and Tony to speak, and then we'll switch over to Captain Johnson, who I see is patiently waiting. Thanks for being here, Cap. I'm just going to kind of touch on a few things quickly that we've dealt with regarding land use, since Helen was talking about land use. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall in detail because Jason Lombard, who's their community outreach director, will be joining us later. So I'll table that one. But just to give you an idea of some things that have been going on that we've been involved in on your behalf. At 63rd and Overhill, which is actually just across, like by a half a block, just across the city-county line, there was a proposal, local developer was planning to build 5 small lot townhomes on a pretty small site. So a lot of neighbors were very concerned about this being another situation where it was an effort to put too much density on a location that was really out of scale with the surrounding properties. And I'm sure some of the neighbors that participated in the 2 conversations we had about that are on this call. If you all want to weigh in or supplement what I say, feel free to chat or raise your hand. But as far as I know, a couple of days ago, I was communicating with Chandra Mosley and another neighbor, and there has not been any action taken by the city. There was one public hearing, but as far as we know, the decision on that is in limbo. So we'll keep you all posted on that. There's 2 single family properties at 5517 and 5523 Overdale that back up to Overhill on the, I guess that would be the east side of Overhill. that are just grossly out of scale with the surrounding houses. As everybody knows, this is a 35-foot height limit community, and these houses are kind of being built up the hillside so that they're taking advantage of being able to be halfway up the hill and then go 35 feet up from there. So I'm not sure. I spoke with Dr. and Mrs. Fields the other day, who live not too far away from there, and they were saying that construction had stopped. So I'm not sure what the current status of those are, but to us it appeared, and in fact we lodged a formal complaint with the county because we were concerned that, number one, the building was out of conformance with the zoning code, and then number two, that the building wasn't being built. I mean, we couldn't figure out how anybody could approve a plan for something like that, which appeared to us to be two mini hotels, you know, that are being set up for Airbnb. It's each bedroom has a bathroom, etc. So if anybody has any more insight on that, feel free to, you know, ping me or send me a chat message or send an email to us and we'll follow up. But that's obviously a concern, and that has reawakened our issue and our concern about possibly looking into a community standards district, which would be kind of an overlay on top of the current zoning and planning laws that impact our neighborhood. We'd be able to say with some specificity, hey, no residential building higher than 35 feet shall be built, period. And, you know, this opens up kind of the can of worms of how far down the road do you want to get in terms of regulating what you and your neighbors can and cannot do with their property. But given some of the trends that we've been seeing recently, it's definitely worth at least considering. So we'll have some more feedback for you all on that. Slauson and Heatherdale, that vacant lot that somebody was going to develop as a car wash, is now up for sale. It'd be great if we or somebody connected to our community could buy that and put something there that would really benefit the community. We had a conversation with a representative of the developer of The View. Speaking of out of scale development, our favorite condo project at Stocker and Overhill that we had to file a lawsuit to slow down or stop. Met with him recently. There's a hearing coming up about the attorney's fees that since we won, you know, the developer and the county are going to have to pay something toward our legal fees. So we'll keep you all posted on that. And we'll see. They also, the same group has bought the retail strip right there as you come to the point of where Stocker, Overhill, and La Brea meet. And they are indicating that they have a plan to do something there. We're not sure what that is, so we'll keep you posted. Helen mentioned the Inglewood oil field. I want to quickly encourage you all to take a look at what Culver City is doing and has done. They have just earlier this month released something called a capital investment amortization study, which is analyzing essentially the costs that have been sunk into the operation of the oil field, capital expenditures and royalties and so forth, and you know what's going to be made in terms of a profit margin, because they have shut down, my understanding is they have shut down all active oil field operation within Culver City limits, and they're now trying to come up with a number to go back to the oil field people to say, listen, this is what we're going to have to figure out how to pay for, because we're going to stop this oil field production permanently. So that's something that I think is a model that could be copied and expanded to cover the larger part of the field that's in our area and the city, and definitely something we should look into. Let me ask Daryl real fast to talk about membership and some other exciting upcoming things that we're working on, and then we'll switch to Tony and Captain Johnson. Go ahead, Daryl.
Hey, John, you did have a comment in chat that related to development. I didn't know if you wanted to address that.
Okay, I'll take a look. Thanks. Go ahead, Daryl.
Okay, so hello, everyone, and welcome to our first virtual meeting. Obviously, many of you who are used to coming to the in-person meeting and paying your dues have not been able to do that as members. So I just wanted to remind folks that we do still need that money. And we would appreciate if you would find an alternative way to pay your dues since we are not meeting in person. You can always, of course, the preferred method is to pay online if you can, manage your own account. on memberplanet.com. We put the link in the email that we sent out announcing the meeting. If anyone needs any additional information, you can let us know either in the chat or you can email us if you're not clear about it. But you can also go to the website, UHA1979.org. You'll also find the specific information about our postal address where you can mail it in if necessary. If you're in a particular difficult situation as an elder or some other situation that makes you immobile or something and you need some help, you can always phone us or email us also, and we'll arrange for someone to pick it up if necessary. So just want to let everyone know that there are other options aside from the in-person meeting in order to get your dues paid. We're continuing to improve membership. It's just that the current members who are already members just haven't been paying as they normally would. So I just wanted to give everybody that reminder. As well, we are looking to do some creative recruitment of members and make sure that we have a more effective representation of the community within the organization. So I'm really looking for folks who have a little bit of time, who are willing to work with me on strategizing about ways that we can improve membership. And if you are one of those folks, please email us at the info@UHA1979.org email address, okay? So that's pretty much it on members, unless we find any questions about it in the chat.
There was a question in chat. It was, how do you find out if you paid for 2020 or not?
If you are not sure that you have paid and you're not managing your own account, please feel free to send us an email making that request about an update on your status. And I or someone else will get back to you promptly. Hopefully that answers that question. If not, ask another one and Mike will let me know. So that's it pretty much where we are in terms of moving forward with membership. Just want to stress that we are only as strong as our membership base. It's an important source of operational revenue for us to run the organization. And our focus really is on maximizing participation so we can maximize that budget and utilize those resources to be more effective in representing you. The other thing that I was going to bring up real quickly before we get to the other speakers is that obviously the community festival / block party that we started a couple of years ago is not going to be able to happen this year because of the pandemic. We are exploring options on still trying to do something virtually where we can get everyone together, where we can highlight our local businesses who have been going through a tough time, as well as to get some of the major sponsors in our area, some of the major potential sponsors like Ralph's and Home Depot and other folks who are still, managing and doing well and getting business, probably because of the pandemic in some cases, to support the organization, even though we're not having the in-person community festival. So if anyone is interested in working on that or has ideas about how we might want to do that, we might want to have some live entertainment. We want each business in the area perhaps to highlight what offers they have and any changes they've made to their schedules and menus and so forth as restaurants, and talk to other local businesses. So we'll have more about that in our email communications once we solidify what exactly we're going to do. If we're going to do small little events monthly or what. So we'll keep you posted on that. And again, also on that issue, if anyone also is interested in working on that, the same thing I said for the membership, which is to email us or put it in the chat, your information, and we'll take note of it and get in contact with you, okay? Were there any other questions on there, Mike?
Yeah, there's one from Donald Morgan. What is your ideal target amount for the membership funds? How far are we off to that?
We have about 4,600 households in our representative area. And we're probably a little bit above 10% of those households. Our objective is to get to at least 50%. So we have a ways to go, and we'd appreciate your help. Talk to your neighbors. As a block captain, make sure that everyone on your block is a member, is representative. If we can have some kind of decentralized operation here where we have block by block people organizing their members would be great, reporting back up to the organization. So again, contact us if you want to give us further input on that.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. As you all know, we've spent a lot of time really responding to the issue of the Sheriff Villanueva, making an announcement that he was going to shut down the Marina and the Altadena Sheriff Station. So we've now become, in addition to sharpening up our own organizational skills and bonding closely with our neighbors in Ladera Heights, we've become friends with some folks across town in Altadena as well. And again, collected nearly 6,000 signatures on a petition, which shortly after he made that statement had the sheriff saying, "Oh no, I never said I was going to close it down. We may just make personnel changes." And I see Captain Johnson smiling. One of the good personnel changes he made for sure was promoting our friend former Lieutenant Chris Johnson to be Captain Johnson, and he's going to join us in a minute. I'm going to ask the wonderful Miss Tony Tabor to share her perspective on some of the back and forth we've been involved with the Sheriff's Department. Tony?
Good afternoon. Thanks, John. Good afternoon, neighbors. As John mentioned, and as most of you know, in early May, Sheriff Villanueva made a notification that both Altadena and Marina Del Rey stations will close this year due to steep budget cuts after the County Board of Supervisors voted a slashing of the department's budget. So the Altadena station would combine with Crescenta Valley Station, and the Marina Del Rey Station would combine with the South Los Angeles Station. UHA II, along with Ladera Heights Civic Association, were opposed to the closures, and our president, John Heath, reached out to Altadena and Marina Del Rey resident and business associations to formulate our collective response. The neighbors were asked to voice their opposition by contacting Sheriff Villanueva's office and the Board of Supervisors by phone calls, letters, emails, and an online petition was created. At this time, I haven't received information related to the closure, but Lieutenant Johnson was the acting captain of the Marina Del Rey Station, and he was recently, like John said, officially promoted to the position of captain, which is good news, and I'm sure he'll update us further. Yesterday, UHA II and Ladera Heights representatives telephone conference with Tab Rhodes, the president of the Los Angeles County Professional Peace Officers Association. The conversation was productive, and we are committed to building relationships, and we will continue to participate in those conversations that impact our communities. So in closing this update, UHA II board joins me in thanking all of you who answered our call to action by assisting us in disseminating information, participating in the virtual town halls, the conference calls, taking the time to write letters and emails, making phone calls, and encouraging petition signatures. And as John previously mentioned, we have I believe you said a little over 6,000. So as evident in this outcome, nothing will be accomplished without the involvement and the efforts of our community members. Our participation is crucial. So we can't say this enough, but thank you again, and in unity for our community. Back to you, John.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. With that, I'm going to ask our friend, I got to get used to calling him Cap now, Captain Johnson. Thanks for being here. The floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Well, thank you. First of all, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. So first of all, I want to thank you guys for the tremendous support. Let me start by saying this. So as we all heard, the station was supposed to, well, they told us it was going to close down. The information that you guys got was the same information I got. Was during a press conference, the announcement was made, And I actually I wasn't paying attention to the press conference because I was driving, and people started texting me, hey, they're closing your station. I'm like, yeah, right, you're kidding. I said, no, he said they're going to close your station. So that's the first I heard of it. So I had to go back and watch the press conference over, and I heard it just like everybody else heard it. So it was a big surprise to me. So, you know, John Heath and others got a hold of me from Ladera Heights and Marina Del Rey, unincorporated area, and they were very concerned as well. We have a good rapport, a good relationship. So as you guys know, you guys started your campaign, which was pretty impressive. The emails in itself were impressive. You know, you guys sent tons and tons of emails to the sheriff. And the way I know that is because after he answered them, they were all forwarded to me. So every day I came into work for 3 or 4 days straight, my inbox was full of emails. And I actually went through and read every single one of them because I just wanted to see what was being said. And I think I responded to almost all of them, as from my perspective. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. You guys are amazing people. And, you know, the only other word I've got since then was, I mean, it's a big deal actually to me, it's the promotion. So I was at work, I was actually in a briefing with about 40 deputies at the time, and I saw I had a missed call from the sheriff's office. And I'm thinking, oh boy, what did we do? Because we were at a protest in Venice just before that. And so I thought maybe we screwed something up somehow that I didn't know about. And then I called the number, he answered the phone and told me I was getting promoted. And that is due to your voice is being heard. I'm 100% convinced of that. You guys played a huge role in that. So I'm very, very appreciative. But what that he told me I'm the captain of Marina Del Rey Station. So that tells me the station is not shutting down. And the reason I say that is because if the station's shutting down, the first person they remove is the captain of the station. So there's no other vacant captain spots around. So, you know, there's no point in doing that. So if he transferred me now, he'd have to transfer me as a captain, and there's no spot for me. So it's, you know, it's a great feeling. So I really appreciate you guys. Can't say it enough. I mean, I do. Other things. So we still have budget issues. I'm pretty sure patrol, which is the patrol stations, which there's 23 of them throughout the county. Marina Del Rey is one of them. I'm pretty sure that's off the table. He's announced some other things that are potential cuts, and that's to other bureaus and other areas in our department to try to make up the difference. Because we do have the $400 million that they cut from us a while back. But as you know, the county's in dire straits right now. So, well, we think they're in dire straits. So I guess we'll find out here at the end of the month. So we'll know if there's any more further cuts. But if there are, I don't think I'm hoping it's not going to affect the station. Right now, I think we're doing pretty well. The number of patrol units we're fielding out there in the field every day is, I think, the appropriate number. We're making good progress in the crime rate. The crime rate is going down dramatically. Well, it has gone down dramatically. Only place we see a slight increase is stolen cars. But over the past couple of months, we made some significant arrests, and those numbers are dropping as well. So things are looking very good. I'm very, very happy to be the head of the station now. I was for 1.5 years as the acting captain. Now it's official as the official captain. Now the work really starts, because now I'm bringing a second in command, and that'll free me up to do a whole lot more community stuff. And that's what the captain is supposed to be doing, working with the community. And doing 2 jobs at once made it very difficult. But now, as soon as I get a second person in there, the fun begins.
That's great, Cap. And again, we appreciate you and, you know, the relationship that you've been able to help foster. I know before you or with you, Captain Stevens was there, and, you know, he's getting ready to retire, I presume. But, you know, you've got a nice legacy, and I think our community has a nice legacy of connectedness, for lack of a better word, with the men and women that staff your station. So obviously, with everything that's been going on, you know, you guys have had your hands full. And we in the community also, you know, remain concerned about making sure that there's a balance between, hey, law enforcement when we need it, but then, you know, not going overboard and getting into a situation where we have unnecessary problems dealing with the stuff that's been in the news. So are there things that we as an organization and as a community can do to, you know, not only support what you guys are doing, but to further foster better, I don't know, you know, relations is kind of an overused word, but just, you know, making sure that there's an understanding is probably what I'm trying to say, between, you know, everybody here on our side, from the elders on down to the youngsters, and then the folks that you guys have out here patrolling and trying to provide services to us on a regular.
So, one thing I preach to my people on a daily basis, and actually I think they get tired of hearing it, but I do, and I preach the importance of community relations. So we're very good at arresting people and taking people to jail. We've been doing that since 1850, and it's something that's easy for us. We do it, we know how to do it, we're trained on it. But one thing that I think we've always struggled with throughout the years is community relations. And I think that's half the battle right there. So I preach this like a ridiculous amount. Every single briefing I send, every email I send, I put a comment in about community relations. I think it's very important that our people understand that. You guys want the exact same thing that we want in our neighborhoods. We want to be treated with dignity and respect by our law enforcement. And we also want to have a safe and thriving community. And I tell them all the time, our community we serve wants the same thing that we have. So you do that, and I don't think we're gonna have any problems. If we provide that service, we shouldn't have any problems. Now, let's not be naive. We're gonna make our mistakes. We're gonna get our complaints, and things like that are gonna happen. That's just the nature of the beast. But if you're treating the community properly, when you talk to them, they'll understand. They'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So you got to be smart. From the community standpoint, what you guys are doing is the right thing. I mean, I couldn't ask much more of you guys. You guys are supportive when we need support, and you guys are there when we need you. So I think what you guys are doing is absolutely right. And by having groups like this is a very large group. In my opinion, my 25 years, I've been to a lot of community meetings. And usually the groups are pretty small, the community groups. But this group is actually pretty large compared to what I've seen. So you guys have a lot of clout and a lot of power, and it's really beneficial. That's the kind of thing we need. And you guys are the Ladera Heights, View Park, Windsor Hills. Those are the kind of communities we need to continually work with to keep the relationship strong.
Thanks for saying that. One thing that Tab Rhodes said when we spoke to him yesterday, this is the gentleman who's the president of PPOA, the Professional Peace Officers Association, that represents, I believe, command or sergeants and above on the sheriff's department. He talked about something that he had observed just over his career in terms of the younger deputies now, and this generational thing where, the younger folks are used to communicating via social media and texting. And he talked specifically about how, from his experience, he was able to, because he was a skillful communicator, talk his way out of situations rather than have it escalate in the wrong direction. And I know, the brother who got killed in Atlanta at the Wendy's for being asleep in the drive-through line, from what I saw, and I'm certainly no expert, but it looked to me like that second officer who showed up took things in the wrong direction. So maybe there's some opportunities to do some educating and training on both sides of the fence so people understand that communication process, which is critical.
Yeah, we used to, when I was a young deputy, we had a course that's called verbal judo. So basically, it taught you better communication skills. We still have those kind of things that go out. We don't see them as often. The training on that kind of stuff is not as regular as it used to be. So it's a great place to start. And that's absolutely it. Communication. That's not always going to fix the problem, but you know what? Your chances are a whole lot better if you can communicate with somebody.
Absolutely. Let me open it up to our board and our members. If anybody has a question or a concern for Captain Johnson.
John, we had a question from Mr. Morgan. I don't know if he left the room though. He had his hand up for a while.
Okay, I know.
I don't see the name now.
Yeah, I got one from him about the oil field and about some other land use stuff. I don't know if he had anything specific on law enforcement.
I don't see his name now.
I know one thing that has come up recently, Cap, is obviously the homeless thing. There's a gentleman who has kind of set up shop on a bus bench at 54th, just before you get to the library, 54th and Keniston, or one of those streets there. And, folks are saying, hey, we don't want to call the sheriff on this guy, but obviously we don't want somebody sleeping, basically setting up camp on a bus bench. And then the fireworks, which has become a pervasive nuisance for a lot of folks. Some people are okay with it. Some people are not. I know one of our neighbors on here was and probably more than I'm recognizing, but I just see one who's been very vocal on Nextdoor about, more than one, about this as an issue and a concern. So from a law enforcement perspective, what are your thoughts about that, or suggestions or potential remedies?
So homeless, so there's kind of a moratorium on homeless, addressing the homeless issue, which if the information is brought to my attention, which you just did, but if you send me something to a location, we can still reach out to that person and try to get them assistance and try to get them somewhere else to where it's more proper for them to sleep and live, because it shouldn't be in your community on the bus bench. First of all, for you guys, you guys live in the community. Second of all, for that person, they could use some services, and they might not. I mean, maybe they're not aware, or they just need a little hand. And we're more than willing to do that any day of the week, any time of the day. We have resources, and we have teams that actually address homeless issues. So those are something that we don't mind addressing still. This has to be brought to our attention, and we can do that. The second thing, the fireworks. You know, I get data brought to my attention on a regular basis, on a almost hourly basis, and we're trying to address it. The problem is you know, we have cars out there. I actually hire additional. I actually overspent our budget on hiring cars for fireworks suppression. But the problem is you know, they light a fire, they light off one, they go back in their house because they know somebody probably called. Then they come out, light off another one, or by the time we get there, they're done. And the level of crime it is, you know, the crime has to be committed in our presence for us to take action on it. Unless it rises to the level of a felony, then we could do other things about that. Every community in Southern California, at least Southern California, has that problem. Matter of fact, I'll be probably calling the sheriff on the guy next door to me here tonight, because he lights a couple off every night and they sound like a darn explosion of blowing somebody's house up. It's ridiculous. But we do have cars out there trying to address the firework issue. I know it's very concerning to people. I know how much you know, people are trying to sleep, or it scares the elderly, or it scares, well, it scares me. I guess I don't know. Scares our pets, and I get that. So we're doing whatever we can to address those issues, but it's just not as easy as people might think.
Got it.
We had a hand from Terry Grant.
Okay, I'm going to get to Terry Grant. I got Mr. Morgan here, who I think had a question before, and then we'll go to Terry. Mr. Morgan, I am unmuting you now, sir. You're unmuted. Mr. Morgan, go ahead with your question to Captain Johnson.
Hi, this is Geneva Morgan, and hi, Captain Morgan. Excuse me, Captain. Hi, Captain.
Hello.
This is my first time doing this, and this is my first time Zooming, so it's just all like, what's happening? Anyway, we live at Maymont and Verdun, and we're right next to the walking park, and it's great that the walking park has been upgraded and it's beautiful and everything. And so now that we're connected and everybody, you know, there was the big public push saying, hey, we're all connected, come on down. We have an issue because now we have lots and lots and lots of pedestrians. This is not what we moved up here for, and also cars. So I don't know that we want to make it so that, you know, we have to have passes in our thing. I just don't know what the answer is, and I'm looking to you to figure out. I mean, you've probably done more of this than I have as far as trying to redirect pedestrians and just let them know that this is actually this is our home. And so we have, like, I mean, I live right around the corner, and so this is like a track. We're part of the track now. People leave the track and go down our street and come back up our street. And there's just a constant flow of people, where when we moved here, there was no one. Now I know that the progress and people move and whatever, I'm not trying to be like that, but I think that we need to address that, because that's not what we came here for. We moved to this neighborhood for quiet and peace, and that's not what's happening. And it's really become like today, I mean, I garden in the front. And so, you know, I'm like, hi, oh, hi, oh, good day, oh, yeah, hey, I'm just trying to plant my tomatoes. There's a lot of people. So I don't know if there's an answer for that. I don't know. You guys let me know what to expect, or what should we do, or I don't know. Just there needs to be an answer to that, because I don't think it's fair that you know, people moved here for that reason, and now another group of people decided for our neighborhood that now we have this influx of a lot of car traffic, a lot of people. And then we live right next to the water, you know, where the water tank is there. It's right at that intersection of Maymont.
Yep, we know.
Yeah, so I've called, and Roz has called California Water to get them to come to cut the brush down, because then you can at least see in. Because there's a lot of people and there's a lot of room up there. We don't want to have a gate. We're not trying to have more gates and things. That's not what we want. This is our home. This is where we live. We would like to have open spaces and stuff.
Yep.
But it's crazy.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
you're
people that cruise up there.
you're not alone, Mrs. Morgan. We've heard that from a lot of your neighbors around that area. Captain Johnson, go ahead if you want to respond.
So I don't want to tell you there's no answer to that, but here's the answer I'm gonna have to give you. Because it's a public right of way or public access, I can't really say who can go there and who can't go there. I can't limit the number of people that can go there. We can enforce parking restrictions if they're in place. We can do those kind of things, but I can't tell people they can't walk down your street. Trust me, I understand what you're saying, and I understand the issue it creates, but I can't restrict people's, if they're lawfully in the place, I can't restrict that. Now that's something you'd have to work with either the homeowners association or the supervisor's office to address certain parking restrictions or other things like that. And then we can enforce those, but that's pretty much all we can do with that. Now, if there's people looking suspicious out there, you can call all day and we can come out there. That's not a problem. But as far as just walking down the street or walking on the sidewalk, there's really not a whole lot we can do. And I know that's not the answer you want, but you probably expected it.
Okay, sorry, Mrs. Morgan, I had to mute you again. I'm gonna keep rolling. I'm gonna unmute Terry Grant. And if anybody has a burning question or an issue, send us a chat or an email and we'll do our best to get to you. We're just trying to get as many folks in as we can. Terry, are you unmuted?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and especially Captain Johnson. There was relationship to your comment about building community relations. I was wondering what your practice is or will be with respect to having a representative at individual block club meetings.
Sure, that's an easy one. We actually already have, so at one point we had 3 people assigned to community relations over in View Park, Windsor Hills, Ladera Heights. There's 2 deputies and a sergeant. So with budget cuts, I was forced to take those 2 deputies away and place them back in patrol so they're working a radio car. But we did not move the sergeant. So Sergeant Mark Collins is still the community relations sergeant for those areas. The area is a decent size, but one person should be able to handle all those meetings. I'm not sure if you met Sergeant Collins yet. If not, at the end of this conversation here, I'll give you guys my email address, and you can email me, and I'll put you in touch with Sergeant Mark Collins, and he can attend your meetings. And honestly, if you would like, just send me a message. I'll attend your meetings too. It doesn't matter. I like to meet people. It's always good. Like this, I actually like going to the meetings in person. But I know we're forced to do this right now because it's good to shake a hand and see someone's face to face and get to know them. So community relations, we will never let you down. We are always going to be there for you. Either Sergeant Collins is going to help you out, I'm going to help you out. We'll have somebody help you out.
Excellent, thanks. And there's a couple others here, Mike. I'm trying to keep up with you and read some of the chats. So
Lawrence, I think, was next.
Yeah,
See that one.
There's a concern from some of our neighbors on Onacrest, Cap, about, I know you guys had a vehicle that you were keeping in a strategic location on Onacrest to keep folks from being set up in Lover's Lane, for lack of a better word. So they wanted to see if they could maintain that. There's someone asking about the community relations office at Ladera. Is it still staffed? Will it be staffed? Is it going to be impacted by the budget? And then also another major issue that ties into what Mrs. Morgan was saying, in that same area near Mount Vernon is Valley Ridge, and the exercise traffic there. We were talking about this yesterday and trying to figure out if that was a sheriff's issue or a highway patrol issue or a little bit of both.
Okay, so the vehicle you're talking about that we had out there, we call it decoy car. It's basically a car without all the equipment inside of it that's parked out there to deter people from doing certain things. So we took that away for the reasons of, we took all of the vehicles away from that were out in public because we didn't want any of our vehicles getting destroyed or burned. And I'm not saying the community members are going to destroy or burn them, but some opportunists could take the opportunity to do that. We saw it, in many places. And we really didn't want that to happen to any of our cars. And luckily that hasn't happened to any of our cars. So that'll stay away for a little while longer. We're just kind of see how things play out here. And then we will return it. I have no problem doing that. If it worked, if you guys think it worked, hey, we'll do whatever we can to help out. As far as the, what was the other two, John? You're muted.
Sorry about that. The issue with foot traffic and exercise on Valley Ridge, and also the status of the Ladera outreach station, is that going to be impacted by the budget, or is that going to stay open?
So the Ladera storefront is still open. The only problem we have there is we have only Sergeant Mark Collins to staff it, and that's when he's actually in that office. Sometimes he's in the field doing work. So budget cuts have really hurt us. We were actually just got to the point where we actually had it open during business hours most days, and then they took the 2 deputies away from me to do other things, and that kind of hurt. But over time here, I'll find a way to get that thing back open. We can be very creative sometimes. We just gotta give it some time to see how this budget plays out, but we'll get it back open if it makes anybody's life easier and makes more helpful. As far as people exercising in the community, in the street, that is
specifically, Valley Ridge, if they're blocking the flow of traffic, is that a call to you guys, or is that CHP?
That would be, it could be either one, but I'd prefer you guys just call us. CHP might take a little extended response because they have a lot of area to cover, and we actually are already out there in the community most likely. So if you call us regarding that, we have no problem addressing it. I received that call before, and I sent someone out there, and it was people just exercising, thankfully. And they said there's not enough room on the sidewalk, so they're doing their thing in the street. Although we gave them a warning about, the reasons we don't like them in the street, because, who knows who's going to come around that corner and not see and run you over. Obvious reasons. So please call us if you have those concerns, and we'll come out there and we should be able to talk to the people.
Sounds good.
We have a couple more questions, John.
Okay, go ahead, Mike, because I don't see him right in front of me.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read them, unless if someone otherwise, let us know if this is not exactly what you want to ask. Question for the captain: is there a non-crisis number we can call when there's an abandoned house and we think trespassers are trying to occupy? I am a real estate broker. When someone dies, may be vacant for a while before we can sell it.
Yeah, so if you call a regular station business line, we could address those kind of concerns as well. So that's 310-482-6000. Just the regular station number. There's no other number that I would have you call. Just don't call 911 for that, obviously. But the business line is just fine for those kind of issues.
Yeah, and I would encourage everybody, make sure you commit that number to memory, because it is a good resource. I mean, we should take advantage of this resource we have in our community. If you lived on the other side of Stocker, it would be very tough to call Southwest or whoever the patrolling station is and get that kind of response. So here we can call those guys and get directly to somebody that can dispatch a radio car. So that's important. And then, Mike, I saw another comment about the donut crew that hooks up at Slauson and Overhill in the middle of the intersection, the young people. And then I saw something else about setting up a video surveillance system. We talked about that some years ago, just to pick up license plates and all that.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about the donut crew. I hope that's not our people.
No, that's the young people that like to make donuts by skidding their cars back and forth in a circle.
I'm thinking a different kind of donut.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. That's my nickname for him, Cap.
Yeah. Right. So that is something. That is a CHP issue, but at the same time, if we got called for that, we would still. We're in the community. We come out there and address it. And I would love for us to catch those kind of people, because I really hate that. I have that around my neighborhood as well. And it really irritates me, and I wish they'd get caught. If they do get caught, that's a very, very, very expensive ticket. If it's not reckless driving, which is a misdemeanor, which requires an arrest. So that's something we'd love to address. The cameras in the area, so that have to be funded by the supervisor's office, Mark Ridley Thomas. So I don't know if that would actually happen. Those are great tools to have in the community. But I don't know if the supervisor's office would be willing to pay for that.
What's the best way to reach CHP?
I don't have the number handy.
I've got it.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. And this brings up another issue that comes up all the time. CHP West LA is 310-642-3939. And the person in charge there is Captain Douglas Young, who's a good guy. And I think he Cap, he was at the town hall or the virtual town hall we did with Ladera, I think, a couple months ago, along with you, if I'm remembering right.
I believe so, yes. He
Yep.
was. He was.
Yep. So yeah, that's just knowing who to call for what. I mean, that's almost half the battle, right? Because we get so many, requests and people thinking that, I mean, with the poor homeless guy that's on the bus bench there on 54th, I had 50 people saying, oh, you need to call 311. Well, 311 is the city. They're not coming.
Right.
211, or really just calling somebody. I referred one of our neighbors to the supervisor's office, but we need to keep working on that, because that's almost a full-time gig, is just making sure the right resource gets hit. And someone is asking Miss Morris Jackson, what's the difference between CHP and the sheriff? Cap, you probably are able to articulate it much better than I, but generally speaking, I think CHP is responsible for traffic enforcement, whereas the sheriff investigates crime in our neighborhood, right?
True. Yeah, so obviously CHP is a state agency. They're enforcement for all highway patrol, as well as freeway. They do policing in some unincorporated areas up north, but in the unincorporated down here, we do all the policing as far as law enforcement, as far as any kind of criminal things. We address all that. CHP just does the traffic control.
Yes.
Hey, John, a lot of people are asking about repeating the numbers, so maybe it's just something we can just do periodically, even though it's in the chat. Some people may not look at the written chat, so it might be something just to periodically say again.
Got it. Thanks, Daryl. Again, the number to the Marina Sheriff Station is 310-482-6000. 310-482-6000. Make sure you guys book that one to memory, because that's an important one. Anything else for Captain Johnson while we have him? So
I know this may be redundant, but for the sake of one member who says they missed it, they wanted to know if the loud bomb fireworks, gunshot sounds that happen every night had been addressed. So if you want to, in closing, just reiterate something about it, that might be nice.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So as far as addressed, well, we're working on addressing it. It's not addressed, and I promise you this: I'll never lie to you. There's not going to go away. We're going to do everything in our power to try to slow it down. I had guys out last night trying to work on that. I have guys out tonight trying to work on that, and I try to hire extra cars when I can. We're already in the red for the month, but I'm going to still hire them, and I'll just answer my boss later on saying, "Hey, you should give us more money because it's 4th of July." So we're trying to address them. It's a problem, though. It's going to happen. But we're going to do the best we can to, if we catch people with illegal fireworks, I told them don't show any love. These people know that they can't do this, and they're really harming the community. So we're writing citations, and we're confiscating fireworks when we catch people.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask two that are tied together, how could one volunteer with the LA County Sheriff, and also do you have a ride-along program?
So the ride-along program is through the station. If you guys get a hold of me, I'll hook you up on a ride-along. That's not a problem. That's easy. And as far as volunteering, it depends on what you want to do. If you just want to be a regular civilian volunteer, you can come volunteer at our station. We can hook you up with a volunteer program, and we can get you trained up through the proper training classes. And you'll wear a uniform as a volunteer, and you'll be a volunteer at the station. And if you don't want to do it at our station because it's boring, you could always do it at South LA station or some other station. I'll hook you up with that too. It's actually, I think it's a great thing for community members that actually, are too busy. They already have their full-time job. They already have the career. They want to, learn a little something. I think it's a great tool.
Do you still have volunteers on patrol?
So we do. We have volunteers on patrol at our station. I'm not sure how many volunteers we have at this moment, but we do have some. We would love more because that makes our job a whole lot easier. We could put you in a car and train you up and let you drive through certain areas, and you don't take any action. You just get on a radio that we'll teach you how to use, and you get a hold of us and we can respond. It's more eyes and ears, and it's very helpful.
Okay, I'll resubmit my application. I did about 4 or 5 years ago, but.
We'll take you. We'll take you.
Captain Johnson, one more complaint that I've gotten from the neighbors on all sides of the walking track, and that is that we've got an influx of trainers using the track for a business and playing loud music loud, offensive music.
Sure.
And they really want to know what we can do about that.
Okay, so as far as the trainers, that's very difficult because it's kind of like, so we have a similar problem out in the Marina. So the people, they charter boats illegally, and they put their ad out there, and they bring all kinds of people on that we address, or the business license people address it, and they say, well, we're not doing this. We know these people. That's going to be the same issue we have with trainers saying, hey, this is not a business. We're just doing this to help people out. The loud music we can address. The loud music is a violation of law. It's a 415 disturbance that we can address. So if there's those loud music issues, we can come out there and address it all day long. That's not a problem. And hopefully we talk to somebody once regarding loud music. Hopefully they learn the lesson and they don't come back, or they don't play the loud music at least. The business is a little bit harder to address though, if they're out there training people. Technically they do need a business license if they're holding a business, but that's gonna be hard for us to prove something like that. But,
Oh, go ahead, Captain.
I would like to come out there and check out the areas you guys are talking about myself, because I've been in the station for about 4 years now, and the past 2.5, I was actually locked in the station, and I was managing only the day-to-day operations. Now the past 1.5 years, I've had a chance to go out there, but I don't know everything yet. So I'd like to see some of the areas we're talking about. So maybe I'll get with John, and he actually can help me out, because if I can see it visually, I can come up with some strategies and some way we can do some things, and we could work together and knock things out.
Good.
I ain't the smartest guy in the room by far.
Yeah, we're talking as early as 6 o'clock in the morning.
What's that?
We're talking as early as 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Well, if I can see the areas, that'd be kind of great. That'd be great if I can see where the problems are. I mean, if the problem's not there at the time, at least I know where it's at and what to look for.
Absolutely, we'll work that out. Now that you're the big dog, Cap, we got to get you out of the kennel. So
Please get me out of there.
Michael, you had one more for him real fast?
Yeah, there was a question about the Citizens Academy.
Yeah, so we haven't hosted one of those for a while. And I love them. The reason I love them is because, we get a group of people together, if you don't know what it is, and we put them through like a 6-week course, which is like 1 day a week, something like that. Every station's different. So let's say 6 weeks, 1 day a week for maybe an hour or 2 hours. And we have someone come in from our detectives, and they'll teach you about how they handle a case when they get it from start to finish. Or we'll take you to our radio center downtown and show you where the dispatchers are, and they'll teach you how they do all this different thing with the resources we have down there. We'll bring to our SWAT team and let it see the things that they do. And what I would also like to do, I really want to do, I'm not sure if we still do it, but if we don't, I'm going to try to get someone together. We have a thing that's called Shoot, Don't Shoot. So what it is, it's a training program where we bring civilians from the community, groups like you, and we'll bring a handful of people, and you put the gun belt on them, we'll put the vest on them, we'll give them the power. We won't give them a real gun, obviously. And then you'll be faced with real scenarios. So we'll have you conduct a traffic stop, and things will take place, and we'll show you how you're supposed to react as compared to what how you think you should react. And it's a very, very educational thing. If you go on YouTube, you could probably see it. Several media people have done it. And it's an eye opener for people on, you think one way, and after you go through that training, you're seeing something a different way, because you run across a lot of things that you never thought of before. So that's something I actually have been thinking of. I've been losing sleep thinking about it, because once I get it in my head, I can't stop thinking. And I'd love to put some of our community through that, just so they can see some of the scenarios that we've been put in, or how we should handle them.
Got it. Well, neighbors, we're going to thank Captain Johnson for taking his valuable time with us on a Saturday. Thanks, Cap, for joining us. And any other questions that we have, I know we can route them to you directly. Anybody can email us, and we'll get them to the captain, and we'll
Can I say
follow up.
one last thing, John?
Sure, go ahead.
So a couple last things, sorry. Number one, we are still hiring. So if you know anybody that would be that should be in law enforcement, and wants to learn about law enforcement, we're hiring. We're always hiring. Even the budget cuts, we're always hiring, because we're always losing people to attrition. And so therefore we have to keep on hiring. So we're hiring. If they go online and they look up the Sheriff's Department website, you'll see that we're hiring, and they can go through the process. And we would love to have more people from the communities we serve. We say that all the time, and it's on billboards, but we just don't get the people. So we are hiring, and I will always tell you, we're hiring. It's very important for us to get people from our community, especially people in Los Angeles. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to go on my email address here. I said I would. The email address is C as in Chris, L as in Lee, Johnso, JOHNSO. There's no N on the end for the email address. So it's not Johnson, it's Johnso at LASD.org. cljohnso at LASD.org. If you have concerns or questions or just want to talk, send me an email, send me your phone number, we'll talk. I can give you my office number when you send me an email, and you can call directly to my office next time. That's not a problem. You can get a hold of me anytime. If you send me an email, I see it on my phone. I can answer you at 10 o'clock at night. It's not a problem for me. I don't mind doing that kind of stuff. Lastly, I want to thank you guys. Everything I say, I mean. You guys were very important in the station staying open. I think the sheriff felt the heat. I hope he's not on here listening. But I think he understood that the community is very involved, and you guys care what your law enforcement is, and as you should. And so I appreciate that very much. I know everybody appreciates it, but I appreciate it very much. And I know my guys understand that as well. I explained to them that you guys are the first one in the fight when this was announced, and you guys were. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. I promise I'll do everything not to let you down, and I promise you'll get the law enforcement you deserve.
We appreciate that. Yep, we appreciate that, Cap. Thanks again.
Of course.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend, sir.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
All right, you too.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, and with that, we'll take a quick moment. I see my friend Jason Lombard is in the bullpen, ready to step out on the field. I just want to. How you doing, sir? Good. I just want to say one thing that I neglected to mention when we were opening up the meeting and speaking about those that have passed on and just the trials and tribulations that we've gone through as a community. We had a couple of neighbors pass away on a crest in the last month or so, including Mr. Joel Nathaniel, who's prominently featured in that video that Valentina and Juan and other neighbors put together to talk about the view development. So we want to take a minute and acknowledge Mr. Joel Nathaniel as well. All right.
Also on a crest, Gladys Dunn. I mean on Donview.
Okay. Yep.
Gladys Dunn.
Yep.
Mr. Tony.
And Mr. Tony.
Yep. That's when I said there have been more than one. I know that, I know there's been a few. So, we honor those that have gone before us and hope that we're worthy of their legacy going forward. So with that, Brother Lombard, thank you for being here, sir. We have Jason Lombard, who is the Community Outreach Director for Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. And obviously we all know that in addition to finding out what the status is of the mall reopening, the mall has been in the news recently with respect to the back and forth about ownership and being purchased and not being purchased. So we figured, hey, what better resource than the man himself to come here and give us a little update so we can talk about what we can do to support what he's doing. So Jason, the floor is yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. And thank you everyone for having me here. These are interesting times that we have, but hopefully this isn't the first time that you've seen me. I see a lot of familiar faces from the various meetings. My name is Jason Lombard. I'm the Community Outreach Director. I've been the Community Outreach Director now for around 11 years at the mall. Just to kind of do some housekeeping first and foremost. Well, first of all, thank you, John, for reaching out and asking me to come by and kind of give you guys an update. I kind of similar to what I just heard from the captain. I'm a straight shooter. I want to make this a discussion where we can really have some questions answered. About I know there's some misinformation that's out there, and I've been able to go to various groups and really be able to let people know what's going on, and just clear up what kind of everything that's happening. With that said, though, what I'll do is I'll kind of back up a little bit, give a little bit of history, and then from there maybe we can ask some questions. Is that all right? Okay, so. First of all, like I said, housekeeping wise, I want to make sure that everyone knows the mall did open on Monday. The mall opened on Monday. We have a little change in the hours. As you can imagine, we're opening a little bit later. I think it's an hour later and then closing 2 hours earlier. And we have all the protocols in place. Not all the stores are open yet because a lot of them had to ramp back up staffing wise. So you'll see, more and more of the stores to start to open up as we go forward. We have had the farmers market on Saturdays open. Now we're going on we're going a little bit over a month. That's been open, and that's from 10 to 3 with the same protocols in place. Farmers market, you know, the vendors actually are the only ones that can handle food and that sort of thing. To back up a little bit history-wise, I have represented Capri Capital since 2009. On this project, we were the ones that came in 2006, purchased the site with the intention of taking it to what we called an A-level site. We've run into some roadblocks, if you will, on the environmental impact report process. We anticipated that being probably about a 2 to 5 year process. But with things like I think there's some longtime residents here that remember the CRA, or Community Redevelopment Agency. That was where our environmental impact report was actually submitted to begin with. So it went to them. We were able to, they used to have things called CACs, which was Community Advisory Councils, where residents sat on those. We presented to them. We got input from them. We actually changed the project from some of the things that we heard early on, but at the same time, we had to kind of move forward. Capri Capital is a African-American venture capital firm out of Chicago. It is made up of, the fund is made up of pension funds. If you imagine, it's not public pension funds, but it does come from, parts of it do come from public employees paying into their private pensions. So you can imagine the pension fund itself is being invested by a group, and then that group invested into a venture capital firm, which then invested into different properties and different investments. That was the situation with the mall. It was purchased for $136 million. We were anticipating being able to begin kind of designing it probably around 2010, 2012. But with the CRA, when Governor Brown came back into office, the CRA was disbanded. We then had a $40 million that we had already allocated from those pension funds to the property. That's where you saw the improvements to things like the window on the bridge and the interior and the theater. Changing the theater and making it an all digital stadium seating theater. That's where that came from. We then moved from that into trying to complete that environmental impact report. That's the plan that you've heard for many years about a hotel, office space, retail village, kind of Century City sort of feel, outdoor shopping right outside of that Broadway or Walmart building, that parking lot changing into an outdoor experience. That's the environmental impact report. That's what that addressed. We went through, made sure that things like views were preserved. We've dropped heights of buildings from the information that we heard from residents, and then we proceeded forward with that. We were able to go to planning. We were able to go to city council, first planning and land use, and then full city council, and we had an overwhelming response of support. From there was an appeal that was filed to that approval. We had a full approval from city council. There was an appeal that was filed by the Crenshaw Subway Coalition. That appeal was heard by the
city council.
And when it was heard by city council, that our approval was upheld.
What year? Sorry to interrupt, Jay. What year was that appeal filed in? How far?
That appeal was filed in 2018.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Because after the appeal was filed, we then had an approved project with entitlements to be able to proceed and build. But we were then entered into litigation by the Crenshaw Subway Coalition in 2018. And just to kind of explain where we are pension fund wise, what happens with the pension funds and with the investment is you have 10 years to be able to generate what is going to be a return. After that 10 years, then you need, we were granted by the larger portion of the fund, the larger portion of the investments, which was Lecera, Lecera. We were granted a 1 year extension from them That was actually in anticipation of going to city council. Then once we had the lawsuit, we were granted another 1-year extension and then a third 1-year extension because that lawsuit was filed in 2018 and actually is still pending today. We have a court, we have a court date sometime in November, but with as you can imagine, pension funds, it became something where they really looked at it and said, you know, we are $175+ million into this. We don't know how long this could go with appeals. So then that was where the money was taken out. With that money being taken out, then the mall went up for sale. That was in October of last year. The mall is still, like I said, the mall is still actually on the market. But what happened when it went up for sale, it actually is still being operated by Capri Retail. The mall is still owned by Capri, but the sale of the mall is being handled for LaSera by another company, DWS, which is another venture capital firm, which is normally how it works with they have a third party that is not attached to it, so that there is not, they really are able to look at it numbers for numbers and be able to get that sale done. So the DWS has been the one handling it. DWS, there's been a few different reports of what's happened with the sale. It was first granted to a company called Hackman, and it was in a joint venture of Hackman and DJM. That joint venture then pulled out of that sale, and then that's where you heard about CIM, and most of you probably, because I live in the area too. You probably received the flyer from the group that was against CIM. That's a separate group than the Crenshaw Subway Coalition group that was against CIM, and then there's another clergy group that was against CIM. So you got a lot of information about CIM. CIM had been granted it for $130 million, which, if you remember the numbers that I said earlier, it really was a must sell situation because you're taking a $45 million loss plus there.
So let me jump in real fast, Jason. Sorry to interrupt. 2 questions. One, let's say somehow a magic wand got waved and this litigation between Capri and the Subway Coalition got resolved somehow tomorrow,
right,
or Monday. I'm assuming that would not necessarily change the position of LaSera and the other investors that are pushing for the asset to be sold. And then also a couple of our neighbors are chiming in here. One question is, what was the coalition asking for? What was the demand or the complaint in the lawsuit, which is a good question. Yeah.
So let me address the second question first. The lawsuit actually had 5 items. 3 of them were environmental. Those were dismissed. There was another one that was housing that was dismissed. And the last item that actually has been the item that's continued the lawsuit is there's a request for 100% affordable housing for the residential that was going to be at the site.
You got cut off a little bit at the end. You said something about affordable housing. Say that one more time.
There was a request by the Crenshaw Subway Coalition for 100% affordable housing. They wanted all of the residential that was going to be built to be 100% affordable. It just, money-wise, it doesn't pencil out to be able to do that, to be able to add in the retail. And I don't think you're going to find, I shouldn't even say I don't think. You're not going to find private property right now that's being built with 100% residential, because it's impossible to finance it. When you move forward, there are things where people have talked about affordable housing. They've talked about, land that's been granted and that sort of thing. Most of the time, if you're talking about a property that would be 100% affordable, you would be talking about something that has nothing else attached to it other than the actual housing or residential. And then it's most of the time it's a smaller property, and it's something that's been granted, or there's a foundation that's behind it. It's not something where, we had a project that our plan that we were walking around with, or that I should say I walked around with, was a $500 to $750 million plan. That did not actually change the floor area ratio, or FAR. It was not taking it and trying to massively make the property dense. We were going to stay at the 3-to-1 ratio. If you look at other regional centers, you're going to see that there are usually 6, 9, and then there are some that are in the double digits as far as floor area ratio. That means going really high, really dense, packing a lot of people into the area. We dropped heights. We talked to people. We heard about things. We heard about banquet rooms that people wanted, responded to that, and added those things into the project. One of the things was even a bowling alley. We added that into the project. But the key thing to that was, throughout the lawsuit, throughout the last couple of years, we've really tried to sit down and have a conversation. I myself have reached out. Others have reached out from our team. People that used to be on our team. My dad actually was one of the ones, Ken Lombard, who brought Magic Johnson to the area, who brought Capri to the area. He actually reached out and said, is there something that we can do to resolve this? They never wanted to actually come to the table. They did not want to negotiate. They said, if it's 100% affordable, we'll come in the room. If not, we don't even want to talk about it. I said, come in, say 100, we can do the back and forth and talk about it. I know there will be an increase, and there just was no interest in that. The second question you had, John, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That gives me a chance to just point out, for those who may not know, as Jason mentioned, his father is really one of the trailblazers in urban real estate development and commercial real estate in urban areas. His dad partnered with Magic back in the 90s, I think, Jason, to do the Ferry Center.
92.
And that was really the first time that I'm aware of. I'm not the expert, but I think it's the first, or one of the first times, that a large institutional private equity pension fund organization dropped a large amount of capital into an urban, and of course that's La Cienega, so you could argue how urban it is, but that was the first real urban commercial inner city deal, and it was a huge success. And they've been off and running ever since. So tell your dad we appreciate him, man, when you talk to him. Definitely. On behalf of our community. What I was asking was really just the question of the day, which is, assuming there's some kind of way to resolve all this and to get the lawsuit taken care of. Okay. Is there a way to, you guys put all this work in going back to, at least 8 years ago, if not longer, with some significant feedback and adjustments for what the community was saying. That's certainly a hell of a lot more than we can say for other developers that we've had to deal with. And in fact, we've had to sue, in fact, using the same attorney. So, I mean, we know the issue and we know the dynamics pretty well. What's the likelihood of, if we could figure out a path forward? Is there a path forward?
The answer is yes, there's a path forward. I think the problem we have now is, where we are really with the COVID-19. Just to be completely transparent, there's, the Capri did not want to sell this property. Capri wanted to develop this property. We would have, if the lawsuit never happened, right now from View Park, you would be looking at some buildings on some part of the property, if not bulldozers, building something. That said, the retail village, which is that Century City sort of feel with open space, fountain, that sort of feel, I don't know that anyone right now where we sit climate-wise is going to want to put the capital into that much retail. If the lawsuit was to go away, you have entitlements for the rest of it, including the retail. The only way that we would be able to, as a community, have that retail is to be able to support it with things like the residential or the hotel. Without those entitlements on that property, the retail, it's either going to stay the same or it's going to be a significantly scaled down version of what's happening, because you cannot support it. The reason why, malls before COVID-19 were failing, just to be completely candid, malls were struggling. What you see at the other places is people are creating daily customers. They're creating someone that lives near the site that can walk there faster than they can order it from Amazon. And that's really what the idea behind it was to be able to have the the daily consumer that could then support the retail. Then we can bring in the stores that people want to see that they're driving elsewhere to be able to have. If that lawsuit was gone, the other issue is the value of the property goes up. So that's where the return that was not happening, that return then is in there because you've now increased the value of the property. Where we will go from here is we will have another round of bids. I anticipate, and I am a consultant for Capri. Capri Retail, there's Capri Global and Capri Capital. Capri Global and Capital that are the firm out of Chicago. I would anticipate are going to most likely try to put a bid in. That's what my understanding is. They don't tell me because I'll tell people. They know I'll tell people. So, that's one of the things that I would say is we're going to have bids. We're going to have bids from large companies. We're going to have bids from, it sounds like some other groups, the Subway Coalition themselves are trying to bring a group together to do a land trust and then purchase it. Those are the types of bids that are going to come in. The bid is probably going to be, if not $130 million, at least 115. But then that's walking in. You're looking at another, the Broadway building is empty, which is where Walmart was. Right. The Mexicano restaurant is empty. The Sears is empty. You're looking at millions of dollars that then have to also be put in before you actually build anything, even with entitlements. So you're looking at probably at least to be able to do something with the site, at 200 to 300 to then, like I said, our project with everything in it was $500 to $750 million. So that bid wise, if you look at the people that can bring that capital together, those are going to be the people that are going to have the bids probably within the next 60 to 90 days is when the bid process is going to happen.
Got it. Questions for Mr. Lombard, folks? And thanks, Jason, for that detail. That's much appreciated.
Can I ask John, we have the people with questions raise their hands because there were comments, but I wasn't sure if those were meant to be questions. So could you please electronically raise your hand?
Yep, and we'll try to unmute you and Miss Iona, hold on one second. Gotcha. Go ahead, Iona.
Hi, I've been participating in some of these comments about what you were speaking about, Jason. I'm sure there might have been meetings at another time when this first started, but it sounds like it would be advantageous for all of us to have another meeting with all parties there, including us, because I'm a little confused about who to really support right now. Mm-hmm. What you are saying sounds like something I would love to see in my area. And then when I think about, as I'm reading about, yes, the traffic density and some other things, I think that would be very helpful. So there's clarity. So having one party say they're not coming to the table is childish and ridiculous, and we need to bring everyone together so that we can know what would be good for us where we are living, and also help our community in a more positive way. Is that possible?
I agree with you. I mean, the thing with me, I've been on now since the really the CIM announcement. I've been on every Zoom that I've been requested to be on for every single group that's requested it. So, I'm easy to find. I'm always willing to be able to have a discussion. Frankly, I understand where your confusion is coming from. The meetings that we had early on, and then we've had meetings over the years, and then we've been going through an approval process. So we've had actual hearings where there's been support. I mean, at our hearing, we had hundreds of residents that came out and voiced their support of our project. What's happened since then, is we've had a lawsuit that has really been operating in silence, because there's no way for someone to still be able to voice an opinion when there's a lawsuit. And I think that's what's really hurting, is that there are ways to be able to operate where residents don't actually know what's going on. But to answer your question, anytime that there's a discussion about this, I'm willing to be there. I will ask questions that are, frankly, I don't know that other people want to answer. Things like if there's going to be if you're looking to build the project that you've put out there, the Crenshaw Subway Coalition had a Zoom call that showed the plan that we actually already had as the plan that they were looking to build. That plan, it had our rendering and our architect, but that plan does not work with 100% affordable housing. So if you're looking at that project and you're saying that this is the project we're looking to build, I would ask the question if you are still planning on having 100% affordable housing. And if you're going to build it, how is it going to be financed? If you're not going to build it, why not? Because there's still a lawsuit that's pending that says that that's what we need in this area. Part of the reason why the reasoning that they put behind the lawsuit was that the income ratio in this area is less than $30,000 for a family of four. And, you know, that's the part where it's just being a resident in the area just troubles me, because that's not a narrative that helps us be able to attract development, attract things that we do want in our area that we've been asking for quite some time. So, you know, I would love to be able to set that up. Anytime that it's set up, I will be more than willing to be there.
Good. That's good to know. And also good to know that you can speak for Capri to some extent.
Yes.
Obviously, we do have some folks that are, you know, very low, moderate income residents, but that's not the only demographic that's here. And I think that's it's always important to have the full perspective, not just one part of it. And there was a question I think Iona was asking about us working to facilitate bringing folks together. Of course, if there's any way that we can figure out a way to solve a problem that impacts the whole community, we're going to be all in on that. So that's why we're doing this. That's why, Jason, while you were talking, I just circulated a copy of the most recent complaint that got filed, so folks can review for themselves what issues are being raised and what the claims are. Anything else? I was just looking to see if anybody else had their hand up.
I don't see any other hands, John.
All right, Daryl raised his hand, but I don't know if he was raising his hand to say something.
Oh, no, that was for something else. But but since you called on me, hey Jason, how you doing? This is Daryl Grayson.
Doing well.
Good to see you. So, to the extent that you can discuss publicly, what would you say is your position on meeting the requests of the Subway Coalition in their lawsuit, or the demands in their lawsuit?
Well, I'm comfortable in saying publicly that the only item that's left in the lawsuit is 100% affordable within a project, which it's not possible. You know, and the fact that there's no negotiation with it makes it just, there's nothing to be done. Somebody that comes into this project right now, if they came in and they wanted to build everything that was in the Capri plan, they couldn't, because they would still be under the litigation. So, you know, that's the hard part, is it's really going to take someone that wants to sit and wait for either the lawsuit to be dismissed. And, you know, one thing, let me back up. You know, this is the same the same process that happened with the 30-story project that's coming up at the old radio station. It's the same process that happened with the Reef downtown, but it's different because the narrative that has been attached to it is that this area has a income ratio that is extremely low, and there's going to be not direct displacement but indirect displacement, which, you know, is a new concept to include in an argument. So whereas those lawsuits were dismissed, and they've all been, you know, one thing I will say is they've all been bankrolled by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And, you know, that's something that's difficult, because it's another group that's then inserting themselves into our area. But with that, those two lawsuits were dismissed. They talked about direct displacement rather than indirect, but our lawsuit has continued because of the income ratios that were.
So I'm sorry. Were you finished? I didn't want to interrupt. Were you finished?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hang on, he got muted, but I'm gonna unmute him.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I muted myself to cough. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
couldn't
Daryl.
come back. I couldn't come back.
Go ahead.
But no, so I mean, yeah, I mean that's where the hard part is that there's nothing to be addressed. I mean, one thing that I will say is that in Quentin Primo, the head of Capri Capital, in his defense, if you will, is that each time at City Council where there was a conversation and they asked him about, number one, local hire. Are you willing to, or what is your desire local hire wise? He said, I want to have a 25% local hire mandate. They said, are you sure you don't want it to be a goal? Because we can attach it as a goal. He said, no, I want it as a mandate and we'll exceed it. There's a 10% tendency for small business and entrepreneurs, because he said we have a center right now that has both entrepreneurs and small businesses along with national chains, and we want to continue that. We want to make sure that we continue that commitment. That was included in it, and it was a mandate as well. They gave him the option of a goal. He said, no, I want it to be a mandate. There's a development agreement that was going to Council District 8 and Council District 10 to be able to do things like donations to trade tech, street improvements. All of these things were included in this project that now are not going to be able to happen because this project is going away. So, I mean, I think that's the hard part is community-wise, we really did listen to what people wanted. We really did get to a point where, like I said, height-wise, we didn't play around with, okay, we'll negotiate. We went down to the level where the views weren't impacted and made sure that it was not something where it was overdeveloped, even through arguments with planning staff where they wanted us to go 20 stories up and make it dense because it's a regional center. One thing that I will note that I saw a comment that came up about there's too much traffic in the area.
Oh, that's
The difficult part with this is we are getting developed. Our area is getting developed. The one place in our area that can actually support the density, and this is why the planning department was arguing with us that they wanted it to be 20 stories of residential. The one place that can take it is the regional center that is in our area. The regional center is Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. That's the reason why there's the portal for the light rail is on the mall side, is because of that. We have the light rail coming. The residential was slated to go into the Macy's lot. The reason why the residential was 3/4 of it was going into the Macy's lot was actually strategic because it could then go out onto the main thoroughfares of Crenshaw and Martin Luther King, rather than going residential, rather than having to deal with residential areas. So when you see the density that is going to be coming other places, a lot of it is because we don't have the density at the regional center at the time being.
Okay, I have a couple other questions. One, since you brought it up, what is the agenda of the AIDS Health Foundation?
The AIDS Healthcare Foundation, honestly, they've gotten to a point now where, and there's an investigation that was just announced in the LA Times a few days ago, or this week. If you Google AIDS Healthcare Foundation and LA Times, you'll see that there's investigation into there being their funds not necessarily going toward helping AIDS patients, but rather development. Some of the development concerns of the founder and the owner, the billionaire Weinstein. What they are doing is they really are trying to affect development everywhere. Starting with they've had propositions that they've funded, and then they've been funding different smaller groups to sue some of the developments that are happening in their area. So they're really looking at a tenants' rights situation and really fighting things that each time just are not really feasible. Things like 100% affordable housing in a project. It's not possible, and I hate to put it that way because I think that there's always going to be room to be able to negotiate and get to a level where percentage-wise, you're able to have a mix, a good mix. But you want to have a negotiation. You want to get to 20, maybe 30%. But when you start to go to 100 or nothing, and you look at the things that are coming, the benefits that are coming that are attached to the project, a lot of the benefits that are attached to the project are attached to the residential, because that's where the bulk of your revenue is going to come from. The bulk of the return is going to come from that residential. So, I mean, that's where it's hard to finance things like the retail if you don't have the residential.
So you see them as pushing unreasonably for affordable housing?
I definitely do. Yes.
And one other question. On absent the lawsuit, because it sounds like you're saying essentially you're being held hostage. So absent the lawsuit, does Capri have the wherewithal, both financially and in terms of, well, I guess it's all financial, but in terms of specifically with regard to the new normal, with regard to the pandemic and the difficulty, obviously, as you indicated, in terms of Amazon and online retail's impact on malls and other retail. Do you now, given what you've had to go through in circumstances with the pension funds, the ability to do what you were planning to do if you weren't being held hostage?
What I'll be clear with is that at this point there's going to be a sale. It's not up to Capri. The mall is going to be sold. The Lacera portion of it has been pulled out, and that is a significant portion of the Capri Urban Fund. So, that being said, there is a chance that Capri would be able to put a bid in utilizing other funds. Like I said, I don't know that because they don't tell me, because I will tell you. They know that. But all of the bids that come in are going to come in with somebody that is going to walk onto the property with a lawsuit. The problem that I see with this is that the retail, and to address your question, the retail portion of it is the hardest part, knowing where we are today with COVID-19. There's, you've got restaurants that are operating at, some of them at 25% capacity. You look at somewhere like Post and Beam, and I'll tell you right now, you've seen it. You've probably seen them on the news. Post and Beam is struggling. Post and Beam is struggling because it is not seen by really our community as a takeout restaurant. But right now, it has to be, in order for it to be there once we open back up. And I think that's a perfect example of, if someone's building a restaurant today, they are building a restaurant knowing that you used to have, let's say, 90 seats, you probably now have 30. When you were turning those 90 tables and you had to turn those quickly, well, imagine what that then multiplies into with 30 tables. I would say that if we look at what's going to happen if somebody walks in here without retail or without residential, they're going to probably look to bring other uses. I mean, that's primarily, I would say, the reason why CIM probably said they wanted office is because they said we can build an office building. We know that you can put protocols into an office building pretty easily. We don't know that you can put it into to retail. I mean, and that's really what we're looking at, is we're going to look at somebody that says, I know that either I know this market, I know how to do retail with there being protocols in place because I've been doing it, so established developers, or someone that's going to come in and say, that surface parking that you have, let's utilize that in a different way, where then we would be able to support the retail, things that, even the Subway Coalition talked about Hackman. Hackman is probably going to look, if they came in, they would probably look, they own CBS Studios, they'd probably look to put a studio there, and have a studio then support some of the residential, support some of the retail, and then that, would bring that would be job creation, that would be that sort of thing. Then you could have partners with the community. But that's, I think, where we're looking at people that are going to come in and have some sort of different use to be able to preserve the current use.
So is it absolutely clear that Lacera pulled out because of the lawsuit?
Lucero pulled out because of the lawsuit, yes. I mean, they pulled out, they gave, and the reason why I can say that with confidence is because they gave 3 one-year extensions. If they were going to pull out without or if they were going to pull out before, they would have pulled out previously when, let's say, when it first got approved, when that 10 years expired. They would have pulled out each time, but what they were trying to do was wait for that return. And, no pension manager is ever going to look at, venture capital fund manager is ever going to look at a $45 million loss and say, this is what we need to do right now, and approach our pension members with a $45 million loss on a property that, if we wait, we know that we're going to generate a return from not having a lawsuit.
Yeah, but in this economic environment, it's possible that it could still have been difficult in terms of the redevelopment. You may have made to make changes.
If this happened realistically, if there was no lawsuit, we would have already been building right now.
Yeah.
So we would have already secured the funds, or we'd be designing it right now and securing the funds. It's a lot easier conversation when you have entitlements done, when you have shovels in the ground, or if you have, you have a light rail coming next year. We have a light rail to the airport that is coming next year. That's why I say with confidence, somebody's going to buy it. Somebody's going to buy it to develop it, because you can catch a light rail to the airport. You can catch a light rail to downtown. You can catch a light rail to the beach. And it's 43 acres in Los Angeles that's primarily surface parking. You don't find that anymore. You don't find it anywhere. You'd probably have an issue finding it in any inner city at this point. And that's where it's going to be advantageous. We actually just have sat through the construction of the light rail, the planning of the light rail, and been here really trying to get things to where it would be done. Now, we've had some unfortunate things that have happened with us. CRA is an unfortunate thing. Walmart leaving was an unfortunate thing. Some people will argue with me that it wasn't unfortunate because they wanted Walmart gone. But just traffic-wise within the center, Walmart leaving, and especially the way that they left, that's 400 jobs that were gone. And that's people that were coming daily that then were not there. But at this point, I think development-wise, someone's going to develop it. We still have a connection to the portal underneath that will then land right in the middle of that parking lot. So there are things that are in place that are going to make it advantageous to a developer. One of the things that is community-wise, one of the things to keep in mind, though, is if someone else buys it and goes through a different process other than the environmental impact report that we did, our environmental impact report, the residential has parking. They have more than enough parking than with, especially now, that they're building with transit-oriented communities and transit-oriented development. We've got a space and a half, I think, at least for each one of the units. Now there are ones that are being built with no parking. Someone else that comes in will most likely try to go higher density-wise, height-wise, all of those things. They will most likely look into trying to maximize the development of the site as opposed to what's attached to it now. If those entitlements can go through with what's attached to it now, you would not be able to go higher in development than what those entitlements say.
So if you had to make your best guess right now, 5 years from now, what's going to be there?
I would say best guess, you're going to have some sort of residential. There would be residential with a mixed use retail at the bottom. Retail, I would say it depends on who buys it, what the retail would look like. There's a bunch of different options that I don't want to go out on a limb publicly to discuss retail wise that I've, in my brain, I've looked at and said, oh, well, wait a minute, these are opportunities. I think there's going to be a hotel there. I would say there's also going to be some other use that I don't know. The Broadway building is an extremely problematic building. The Broadway building is a building that is historical. The Broadway building and the Macy's are historical. So those will definitely be there. But it's historical. There are no windows on the outside of that building where it's a historical facade. So you have to actually bring the building up to code. In bringing it up to code, we were going to put an escalator system on the interior of the building, similar to what you see at the Beverly Center. And when I say it's not up to code, it has to have an entrance and an exit for each one of the tenants. If you split it, you're now looking at only one of the floors that actually has an entrance and an exit, and that's the ground floor. But there are 5 floors. Most of you probably remember that there are actually 5 floors to that building. It's 200,000 square feet. If one tenant takes it over, then you don't have that issue. But you're really limited in who would be able to take that building over. So I would say that building will most likely have a different sort of use. And then, hopefully, I still believe that I believe in the retail village, because I think we need to open up pedestrian traffic for Crenshaw, and we would be able to take down the fencing. We really need to get that fence off the site and let people know that, you can really walk around in our neighborhood.
So you saying you think the outdoor promenade Century City style is still feasible or not?
I think you can build it if you have other things to support it. If you put in the residential, if you put in the hotel, if you put in some other use in the Broadway building or a tenant that goes into the Broadway building, I think you can definitely build it, because then it's supported. If you don't include those other things, then you can't build it because you can't afford it.
Okay, that was a lot of questions, John, for somebody who didn't have any questions, I guess.
Yeah, man, you got it all in though. That's the way to do it. Jason, are you okay if we share your email address with
Yes, that's fine.
on the call? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
The best way to reach me is always email. You can put my phone number on there also. If you need to reach me on the phone, it's easier to text. I can get you a text message answer quickly. If you leave me a voicemail, sometimes it's full. I get a lot of people that call me, but even if you call me and you leave me a voicemail or send me a text message, this is what I do. I'm a person that talks to people all day long, and I believe in this community. My first job was Magic Johnson Theaters, and my dad was in Baldwin Hills, so I walked the streets in Baldwin Hills to get to work. I worked at the corporate office and at the theaters. So, this site is near and dear to my heart. It's one of those things that I will always have a conversation with someone that wants something or wants information. And then, I really, really, really don't like there being misinformation out there. So, anytime if you hear something other than what you've heard come from me, I'm the only person that's ever done a presentation on the Capri plan, and I kept it that way for a reason, so that I could make sure that I was always straight shooter. I was always saying the exact same thing in every meeting. And if you ask me questions, I don't have to say, I don't know who said that. I know exactly if it came from me, I know, and we can talk about it. If it didn't come from me, then it's something that's misinformation. And, one thing I'll say is, if you really want to look at community-wise, dig a little bit, look at the plans for some of these things, look at what's happening, look at what people are talking about, and really look at it with a critical eye. Because, we as a community are at a point now where there are going to be a lot of developers coming to District Square, Marlton Square, the mall. We've got all these projects that are coming, and we really need to get on the same page, community-wise, voice-wise, and be able to let people know, not only planning-wise, but the design review board, and let everyone know exactly what we do want in our area.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jason. We appreciate you taking the time, sir, on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Anytime.
I did circulate his email to everybody, so we will be in touch. All right.
Perfect.
So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jason.
So folks, we are at just about 4 o'clock. We appreciate everybody hanging in there with us. I don't know if there's any new business announcements or discussion that we need to.
No hands up, sir.
Were there any questions we didn't answer? You got all the questions, Mike?
Yeah, I don't see any other hands up.
Look like we kind of covered a lot of them. Tony's got his hand up. Hold on one second. Brother Tony Bacon. For some reason, it takes a while for this thing to actually unmute the person. I don't know what that is. There we go. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, thanks. I just have a question about who is the committee that's handling community issues such as the streets, problems with traffic and so forth. Because on Fairway Boulevard, within the last year and most recently the other night, We had another situation where someone was speeding up the street and actually hit a couple of parked cars. Last year around September, someone was speeding down the street again and destroyed my son's car. So I don't want to take up everybody's time with this, but I'd like to talk with the person who's head of the committee so that we can get some solution to it, such as signs and so forth.
This is on Fairway. Is it between Valley Ridge and Presidio?
Yes, it is. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you
know,
aware of it? Has anyone brought that to the attention?
I'm aware of it because I'm on the next street over on Olympiad in that same area,
right.
and we have the same, if not worse, problems. So, I think, and thanks for bringing that up, Tony. I think that's an ongoing problem that's only going to be solved whenever we can figure out a way to get speed humps installed. And that has only happened in one small part of our neighborhood, right off of Stocker along Palmero, I think, in a couple of those streets. So we'll circle back with you on that. I made a note of it, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Or maybe Tony's volunteering to help out on that.
Oh yeah, I muted him. I muted him too quick.
Okay. Okay. No, I am willing to help out. The other thing is where our house is located is where the curve is in Fairway.
Right.
So people can come down the hill or go up Fairway towards Northridge and not see this curve until it's late, that thing. So yeah, I'm willing to help out. Right.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, it really is the speeding and the traffic. And someone made a couple of people made comments in the chat about us being, kind and considerate with one another. It sounds trite, but it really is. It's like, hey, some of this is youngsters and we just have to talk to them and try to educate them. But, a lot of it, I see people blowing that stop sign at Valley Ridge and Northridge all the time coming up the hill. And it's like, hey, we got seniors and kids and people around here that, if something bad happens, that's, just because somebody was in a rush and not paying attention, that's not a good thing. So we all just need to be a little more conscious and deliberate in our day-to-day routines and rituals. Anything else before we take everybody out? For those of you that have hung around, we got a treat for you. Our neighbors Raquel Rodriguez and Sam Bronner. Sam has a studio called Blue Dream Studios in the neighborhood, and his colleague and partner Raquel Rodriguez, who also lives in the area. I think I saw this on Nextdoor, but they've got some really nice music, and I'd like to share some of that with you all as we close out the meeting. You can find or follow Ms. Rodriguez on social media at RQLRod, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Unless there's anything else, and I'm not seeing anything else.
There are a couple of things in the chat.
I see. It looks like Dr. Wells is raising her hand. Hold on one second. Got to get the new mom in the mix. Go ahead, Dr. Wells. How you doing?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
How you
Long
doing?
time no see.
How's the baby?
She's good. She is taking a nap right now. So
all right. Gave you a chance to get on the call, huh?
Yeah, no, I've been on the whole time, but
I know, I'm teasing
I just
you.
took the video off because otherwise y'all would have seen me running around back and forth, chasing after her with my hair all crazy and everything.
That's funny. That's funny. Good to see you. What's up?
Yeah, so my street on Valley Ridge towards the Slauson side is having a Father's Day celebration. One of the pastors on our street is actually going to be given a service outside, and there will be praise and worship and dance and song. And so it's
Is that Grace? Is it Grace United Methodist that's doing it?
No, it is Pastor Nelson with the CLC Worship Center.
Great. Okay.
So we did something for Easter, which was similar, which was really nice, and it's open to obviously everyone. But come drive by, sit in your car. You can roll down the windows. We're going to be practicing social distancing, but it will be a wonderful, wonderful community gathering.
And that's on Valley Ridge, just north of Slauson, starting at what time?
Just right off of Valley Ridge and Slauson. So
starting at what time?
starting at 2 and going from 2 to 3.
Okay. If you have anything that you can email us,
Absolutely.
we'll shoot it out there. That's great. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank
Appreciate,
you.
yeah,
See?
good to hear from you. And also that's a great reminder for me to say Happy Father's Day to myself and all the other dads out there. We appreciate you guys, and hey, we get our day too, fellas, so enjoy it. Anything else?
So someone was asking, I know it was covered earlier, but maybe reiterate, who are we covering, who are we supporting for supervisor? And I would also ask, for those who made comments, if you were really intending to ask those questions, please raise your hand.
Right. And also the both this recording of this live stream or meeting and the chats will be preserved and accessible later if somebody needs to refer back to something. But yeah, we did, as Helen mentioned at the top of the meeting, we met with virtually both Senator Mitchell and Councilmember Wesson last month, had good conversations with both, pretty much decided as a board that we were not ready to endorse anybody. And quite frankly, we're just gonna, continue to do our part to make sure that as many community members and constituents can hear and get a chance to interact with those two candidates between now and November 3rd. I'm quite sure, I know Florence Ochi from Ladera was on the call earlier, but I know we're talking to Ladera about co-hosting another candidates forum. It's important for us to, especially with that position, because it's such an influential position, it's important for us to make sure that we have a thorough vetting of the issues and the candidates as we go forward. So that's our intention on that. Was there something else, Mike?
Donald Morgan has his hand up.
Okay, let me see. Miss Morgan, hang on one second.
Okay, I'm going by the name, sorry.
That's all right. Did we unmute her? I thought I had her and then I lost her.
She's still muted.
Hang on one second. I think I just accidentally muted Mike.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry about that, man. That was an unintentional unmute button.
Sometimes I talk too much, so it's okay.
All right, Mrs. Morgan, go ahead.
Hey, when we first began, you had mentioned it, and I wrote a note, and I just wanted to say this out loud to everyone, because anyone that lives up on the hill and lives in this area knows that the part of the reason why we bought these houses is because they had a view park, all these places you can see, and pretty much from most of the houses when they were originally built, you have somewhat of a view somewhere. And so we've had recently, I'd say in the last 5 to 7 years, there's a lot of homes that are built at this new height and also a new setback. So it affects the density and also the view of the people that live in the area. And the whole point of, I feel, of being called View Park is that you have and will keep some sort of view. I mean, if we continue to allow people to come in and just build whatever they want at this 35 height, and also having this large setback, it just affects the quality of the homes that are already here. And if we are not vigilant, we'll lose that. And so I would like to suggest to everyone to consider putting an overlay. It's not, a lot of people feel that it is restrictive, but actually it will be beneficial for all people that live in this neighborhood and anyone that comes into the neighborhood to keep your view. I mean, that is part of the deal. And I don't think that it's fair that we just kind of just run roughshod over it. So I would like to just say in this moment that perhaps we can revisit it and see what it looks like and how we can put minor restrictions and an overlay over the area where people aren't going to have to petition once a house comes in or somebody's going to build something. We have to then go to the city and go to the county and say, look, we don't want this, and then having to go through some sort of lawyer situation to have even a conversation about it, because it's like it's a free country and it's my property, and those are their conversations about being American, blah de blah.
Yep.
I just feel like it's View Park. Let's try to keep it as View Park. It's a beautiful place. It's a historic neighborhood. Let's not lose it just because we're complacent. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks. I appreciate those comments, and that's definitely something that we have been discussing, and I would encourage you and everyone else on this call who feels strongly about that to connect up with us and work with us on that effort, because that's going to be a long-standing collective effort involving probably whoever the new supervisor is, working with them closely along with LA County staff to make that happen. So we'll visit that issue for sure. All right. And with that, folks, I'm going to, thanks again for spending the time. I'm going to mute everybody if I can. And I'm going to bring up this, hopefully I do this right. Let's see if I can successfully do this where everybody can hear it. All right, enjoy this, guys. That's right. Tony, can you hear it?
Yes.
Good.
I take things personally whenever you're around. You play so tough for me. You're never backing down. You always need to be teaching me something I don't seem to know. I keep on asking if I'll ever be enough, but all the while, I know, ooh, you got your sweet side. Let me see that smile, show me your sweet side. Don't be remember why I always love you. Just once in a while, you show me your sweet side. Do you remember when you called me up, taking my time again? You said you just want to talk, but you start questioning everything, even when I'm doing fine. You break me down and I just sit quiet, but all the while,
Can you hear the music?
I know you got your sweet side. Let me see that smile, show me your sweet side. Don't be remember why I always love you. And just once in a while, you show me your sweet side. Your sweet, sweet side. Your sweet, sweet side. Your sweet, sweet side. You got your sweet side. Let me see that smile, show me your sweet side. Don't be remember why I always love you. Even just once in a while, you show me your sweet side. You got to show me.
So Jonathan, what do you think? Good meeting? All right. All right, everybody. My 14-year-old, soon to be 15-year-old son said we had a good meeting. Said we had a good meeting. So.
To you for asking a quick favor.
Oh, wait a minute! I got Joe Biden still talking in the background.
I said from the outset of this election.
Quiet down, Joe. I'm still talking, brother. All right. My soon-to-be 15-year-old son says we had a good meeting. He was watching on the YouTube stream. So if he says we're good, we must be doing something right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Happy Father's Day, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Happy Father's Day.
All right.
Happy Father's Day. Thank you, John. Thank you,
a lot.
everyone, for coming.
Thanks for the co-host assist, Mike and Daryl and Kellen, Tony,
Pleasure.
Joanne, Aaron. We appreciate you guys. Oh, and I see my mom.
Thank you.
What's up, Mom?
Your mama's there. Thank you.
Let's unmute Mom. Let's unmute Mom. Well, let's see. Let's get some wisdom from one of the elders here. Hang on one second. I gotta see if we can unmute the mothership connection. Uh-oh. All right. Well, wait a minute, Mom. We can't hear you. I'm trying to unmute her. Technical difficulty, folks. Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Mom. Now we got you.
As always, the meetings are very informative, and having my first year here in 1964, I've certainly seen a lot of changes. And most recently with COVID, I think the reason we're seeing so many people is because people are here, they're inside, they want to get outside. I've seen streams of people going up and down the street. I think it's healthy. I'm happy to see them walking and, you know, getting some sunshine and fresh air, and meanwhile wearing those masks. But my hat's off to the board. You guys put in tremendous work and many, many, many hours, and I am so grateful and appreciative that you guys have picked up the baton and you're moving with it. Real proud of everybody. Happy Father's Day to all the guys, and enjoy a refreshing, enjoyable weekend.
All right. Hey, with that, it's nothing else that needs to be said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, right there.
Take care.
All
Thank
right.
you, Mom.
Happy Father's Day, everyone.
All right. See you guys.
Same to you, Mike.
All right, thank you.